Welcome back to Bama Bang. You might notice we've changed scenery a little bit for this video. That's because today we're doing EDC Antiques version. So behind me we've got a piano from 1910. We've got a lot of cool objects I think you'll find very, very interesting, and we're going to go through them one by one. So let's get to it. So this is our collection of things we have from the turn of the century, or our antique EDC. Again, not all of these things would have been carried by everybody, but we were trying to find something that maybe you would find in the inner cities, Chicago, New York, something like that. So now we'll go through every single item and tell you a little bit about its history and what it would be used for. This item is a pocket watch. These were made by E. Howard in Boston. Obviously a chain would be passed through here, and it would be worn in one of the front pockets of either their vest or their jacket, and these can be wound by just pressing in here and winding to the left. And this thing is extremely old. E. Howard made these things between the years of 1858 and 1903, and we looked up the serial number on this thing, and obviously the case is in much better condition than the rest of the actual watch itself. We don't know when it was made. But the watch itself, the serial number dates back to 1877, so the watch itself and its internals go back to then, and the outer case back here and everything we believe to be substantially newer, but we're going to open it up and show you the inside now. Okay, here are the internals of this watch, and it's amazing to look at the craftsmanship and how advanced these pocket watches were for that time period. I mean, it's just like a modern marvel. But as you can see, the case itself was made by Keystone. It's engraved with J. Boss. We've been looking up these markings and we can't find exactly who made it, even though it has a serial number, but still, it's got a scratch right here, but it's still a lot newer than the pocket watch itself, but still amazing, and it's still ticking after 150 years or 140 years. Old watch, so pretty impressive. But this is what they would have carried back in the day. Okay, the next item we have are called lever fill pens, or today basically what we call them is fountain pens. A little different from today because they probably wouldn't have carried these on their persons, but they would have used them a lot in their offices when they were signing deals or what have you. But basically this lever right here is pulled up, and when that pulls up, it pinches the ink bladder, and we have an ink bladder right here. This goes inside the pen like that and allows ink to flow up there. And then when you're done, these are just screw-on caps here at the front. This is just for example, but then it acts like any other fountain pen. So you could use it for calligraphy or what have you. But yeah, that's the lever fill pen. Okay, our next two objects are, of course, a leather wallet, which they would have used to carry their cash in, and a case pocket knife, which everybody carried a pocket knife back in those days. So we don't have a lot of markings on this wallet. Obviously, they don't have any place to show their driver's license. I was thinking about the differences between these and what we have today. But here it says English pigskin right here is the mark. So we know this leather came from pigs in England. Of course, you have a little pocket here that comes out. You could carry different types of identification cards or cash in all these different ones. But very, very simple compared to what we have today. And then the pocket knife, literally just two separate little knives inside here that would have been carried. This is very much streamlined compared to what we have today. Very streamlined, would fit in your pockets, smooth on the outside. You could throw it in there with your keys or what have you. But definitely very different from our tactical blades that we carry. This is the Benchmade. You've probably seen it in my other EDC video. Very much smaller and more streamlined, but everybody would have carried some type of small pocket knife for opening things or food or what have you. It was just a common day occurrence back then. So again, that's the wallet and the pocket knife. Okay, the next two items we have are a cigarette case and a little case for matches. We know that lighters existed back then, but Some people still carried matches. And of course, we looked up, these are both sterling silver, and they're both out of England. We actually looked up the markings and were able to find out who made them and where they were made and what year. For example, this cigarette case came out of Birmingham, England, I think is how they say it over there. And it was actually created by Robert Pringle and Sons between the year 1918 and 1919. You can tell they all have these markings in them. You can look them up online, but yeah, you would hold them over here or over here. And back then it wasn't like today, where we know all the health problems caused by smoking. Everybody smoked back then. And then this little match case is a little older. It was made somewhere between 1901 and 1902 in Chester, England. We couldn't figure out exactly who the manufacturer was, but it's WN, it says. We couldn't find anybody in Chester with those initials. We found a lot of companies or people who had those initials in other parts of England, but we're still on the lookout for one that was in Chester. So if you know who the WN is for Chester, let us know. It would be interesting to know. But that's what they would carry, and this was probably one of the most used objects, sadly, that they would use on a daily basis. Okay, the next items we have are just coins, and of course these would have been carried around in the pockets of people who used them or received as change, and they used coins a lot more than people do today with their credit cards and debit cards. But we have 3 coins. We have the silver dollar. This one was in 1924. We have the half dollar. This one's from 1915, and then we have an interesting gold coin from 1910. It's actually worth $2.50, strangely enough. What's interesting is that it's gold, and it would be worth $300 or $400 in weight today. But it's got a chief's head on the front, and it's got a very interesting eagle stance on the back. On the back of the half dollar, you have a very similar eagle logo to what we see today on our coins, and of course, on the back of the silver dollars is also another very similar stanced eagle to the $2.50 coin, which is interesting. And just for a size comparison, I have a modern day quarter, just to put it into perspective. Okay, and then finally, of course, you have your firearm. Now, not everybody would have carried firearms, but definitely the gangsters. And you've probably heard of this gun, but it's the Colt Model 1903. This was extremely popular at the turn of the century in the early 1900s. This particular model was made in 1912, fires 32 ACP, 8-round clip. Of course, John Moses Browning, was just a genius for his time. Well, even for our time, because we still use some of his firearms. But this was supposedly supposed to be hammerless, but really there's a hammer. It's just concealed here. And that's what made this so easy to carry. You could just slip it in your pocket, and it became one of the first really popular concealed carry guns that was automatic. Of course, they had the revolvers before then, but just amazing to think that the safety, which you can just slide up here. Let's see if I can get it here. Oh, I can't get it. It's gonna ruin this whole part. So there it goes. Also doubles as the slide catch, which is pretty amazing. And of course, the magazine had a very common or European style, where you would just pull this lever right here and it would slide out the bottom. But this was carried by Bonnie when she broke Clyde out of jail. John Dillinger had one of these on him when he was shot by the FBI. Patton carried it as his backup gun. He called it his insurance gun. And Al Capone. So very, very popular amongst gangsters, criminals, and sadly probably killed a lot of people. But it was really good for what it was and what it was used for, which is being a great concealed carry pistol. So again, this is our conglomerate of EDC carry for the antiques. All this stuff out here, I think the newest stuff we have out here is maybe the pins and the wallet that date back to the 1930s. Potentially this pocket knife, it was somewhere between the 1920s and between 1920 and 1940. But everything else is even older than that. And this is stuff that they would have carried and used on a daily basis, especially in the inner cities and all your gangsters. So like and subscribe, make any comments if you know anything extra about some of these items or other items that would have been very commonplace. Tell us about them. We'll be interested to hear. fascinated by this time period as well. So if you haven't, like I said, like and subscribe, and we'll be back with another video hopefully here pretty soon. Spam a Bang signing out.